To get us started, we're just going to have a quick think about what psychology looks like and what it might be as part of a degree programme, if that's kind of the interest for you. So if you've already studied psychology, you might have quite a clear idea of what it's going to involve. Generally, if you've not already had an opportunity to study it, maybe at A-level or in college on a BTEC-based programme, it might be that you've done other subjects that have some links to maybe some of the content that we find within the degree. So we've got kind of social, biological, cognitive and emotional factors that we're looking at, particularly with the individual. And what we find at university that is slightly different from college level study is that you will find a little bit more maybe science. So for those of you who are doing the A-level at the moment, it might be that you have got a bit of data in there and a bit of biology, but generally as we go into degree level study, we sometimes find for some students, the increase in the amount of science almost puts them off slightly. So it's important when you're doing your research to make sure that you're getting a psychology degree that suits your skills and attributes, as well as what the subject involves. And it is a really fast growing subject. So at the moment, it's very popular in the UK, and we find that jobs, certainly within the psychology sector, can be quite competitive. So it's really important that actually within what you are looking at and what you're researching, you're investigating kind of the career options as well. It might also be linked to kind of your own skill set. So if you're looking to go to be a clinical psychologist, it might be that actually you find that your personal skills, your attributes in listening and communicating with people would be really well suited to that kind of career. If you think actually you might find it very difficult to deal with perhaps specific individuals who've perhaps got very complex needs, it might be that actually there are other elements of psychology that you can look at and review. And you will need a mixed bag of skills going into the degree, and I'll go into those as we go forward. So qualifications you might need before we get started. Psychology degrees vary. We're often looking at your maths and science grades, certainly at GCSE. For some courses in the UK, they'll require you to have done a science-based subject at level 3 study. So that might be an applied science BTEC, that might be your psychology A-level, depends on what you've studied. For us, we're looking for between 2 Bs and a C to 3 B grades for you to be able to enter, and we look at that in UCAS points. And it will vary on the university, so it's important to do your research. As Holly suggested, there's over 1,500 psychology courses, so it is important to get started and have a look at kind of what's available to you. In terms of other options, you've obviously got things within kind of the combined degrees, and it might be that if perhaps you are struggling to find a course that fits your requirements, the combined degrees often will have perhaps a slightly lower entry level in terms of what's there. And what you'll study. So you have a broad range of options, and you can certainly pick from a variety of courses. These are just some of the optional modules that are available in the 2nd and 3rd year. And it might be dependent on your skills. You're either focusing perhaps on, say, the neuroscience, the cognitive behaviour, or you want to focus maybe more on the more social aspects, things like society and politics. We do have modules that link very closely to things that are going on in society. So movements such as the Black Lives Matters that have been happening more recently would fit into some of those modules where we're thinking about contemporary society. I know some of our own lecturers have been looking at the effects of lockdown on young people and how that affects people's perhaps psychological and mental health. So it really will depend on what your skills are and the kind of aspects of psychology that you enjoy that will have an impact on kind of the best route for you. And ideally, you've got university where you're going to have a range of modules that you can choose from. So what you're looking for in a course. The other speakers have mentioned it already. It might be you're looking for placements, work experience. There might be particular specialisms you're looking from the universities you want to go into. We focus a lot on some of the forensic pathways, and that might be suitable for your particular interest. What I would suggest is also look at how you're going to be assessed. So the assessment for psychology can vary a lot. It might be a lot of exams in some universities, but increasingly they're looking at doing practitioners' reports, you undertaking placements and volunteering to be able to reflect on your practice and your understanding of people, which is part of the programme as well. And a lot of courses are accredited by the British Psychological Society. So I'm just going to go into a little bit of detail about them. So if you think that you potentially want to go into the very clinical end of psychology or the educational or kind of occupational routes, it is really important that the course that you start has BPS accreditation. And lots do. You can check on the BPS website exactly which courses at which universities are accredited. Where this is really important is once you've done your initial degree, to then go on to do your further training and study to become a chartered psychologist, you need to have that accredited course. And it shows, a bit like if you were going off to be a nurse or a doctor, that you have met that required standard in terms of your practice. So it's an important first step. So if that is an area that you're looking at, it is important to make sure that when you're doing your research, that BPS accreditation is there. The other thing to note, the BPS website's a great place. They've got loads of stuff for students and career prospects. So again, have a little look at what they've got on offer because that might help you have an understanding of what's available. So what does a typical week look like? Depending on exactly what you're up to, you will have a variety of lectures and seminars. You'll be doing personal tutorials. I know at our university we have a maths cafe because lots of students perhaps find the data and digging into some of that data and data analysis slightly more challenging, certainly if they've not maybe done that as a subject at college or sixth form at the moment. And increasingly we find students are undertaking volunteering modules particularly to get an understanding of working with individuals and people, so that when they're then ready to go into the workplace, they can get started in that work environment to make sure that they have got the kind of personal skills to be able to go into those careers. So I've mentioned some of the kind of options already, but skills-wise, what students might find very often is there can be quite a high level of science requirement for some of the psychology degrees. And if you're someone who says, actually, I enjoy my science, but I'm about at my limit in my psychology study at the moment, have a look at maybe the combined courses where you're perhaps doing law and psychology or criminology and psychology, because you'll find the science requirement reduced in those kind of programs. But skills-wise, the reason why it's a really good degree is because you are picking up skills across a really broad section of options. So what that means is actually career-wise, you're quite effective in the job market because you've picked up data analysis, you've dealt with working with people, you've perhaps done and undertaken research. So there's a range of factors that mean that you've got some good skills when you come out of that degree. And where it might take you. So just as Jen was saying about geography, it really will depend on the kind of things that you're interested in. It might be that you know you want to specialise with certain people and certain client groups of individuals. It might be that you know that you've got a particular interest in maybe more the business side, maybe marketing side, how people respond to those kind of factors. I know at the moment with COVID, we've got shops being really careful about how they're changing their messages about how we shop and what we do. And the effect of that is really important. The government even came in and said, you know, actually, if we'd done lockdown earlier, would people have followed it? Would people have psychologically kind of checked out of doing the things they were asked to do? So all of these factors have a bigger part to play in kind of a more society-based career, as opposed to perhaps working with the individual, which is kind of what some of the modules within psychology are also looking at as well. So kind of to finish, sort of the whistle-stop tour of psychology, please make sure you have a look at the BPS website. There is loads of really great information on there. And there's also some really good subject guides as well, certainly on the UCAS website. At the moment, I would really suggest you connect with universities digitally and virtually, so you're able to get an understanding of what the courses are going to offer and how they can support you in your kind of degree choice.